Good morning. And you are at Outside the Box with Tracy Hansen and my co-host, Nigel.
Hello.
And we are talking with Alex today, Nigel and I had a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with Alex last week and to learn a great deal about him. And Alex, you and I first sort of connected through the Reham Foundation. And you had wanted to talk with me about my work, and I had the opportunity to flip it around onto you first. And and you're no longer working with that foundation, and you're really moving out on your own. What I want to point out is I had the opportunity to just come out of the 2020 virtual global conference with the youth who are empowering change around the world. And so how appropriate it is that we are speaking to you after that, because you are definitely a youth who is taking learning, your learning, and the learning of others forward. Can you tell us more about what you're doing, what you started to do with the foundation, why you kind of left that, and what your vision is and your passion is, or what you want to move forward in?
Okay, so I first started to co-host an English club, an English class with someone from Washington, D.C. And after, I think, 2 months, I started to interview people, and that was a good experience. And then I was interviewing for a specific foundation, but now I'm planning to interview by myself. I'm planning to interview people by myself with my own organization. Now, what I have an English conversation club where we gather with people, we practice English, we read articles, we read texts together, and then I also have met some, I have also met some Americans, and then I invite them to join us, to join our meetings. So in this way, we can have someone who speaks English perfectly with the right pronunciation. And my passions, I love people, education, business, English language, all of this.
And you're starting an organization. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization that you've started?
Sure. Now I have my own organization called Alex Foundation. As I told you, I'm planning to open it more and more. I mean, expand in Brazil, and I'm already expanding online virtually. But I want to expand between my neighbors, in my city. I want to kind of open a club where people can gather and practice their English. And I mean, when you're practicing English, you don't really learn just the language. You can also learn about culture, education, travel, business, different parts. So English gives us an extensive area to study, where you can study different things.
Why do you think English is becoming so terribly important right now, in particular, that everybody is looking to be able to speak and communicate in English?
Nowadays, we are in a time that everybody is connecting with themselves. Everybody is getting to know people from other countries, and we cannot really learn every language. We cannot learn Japanese or Urdu to speak with them. We need to have, a standard language where we can speak with different people from different parts of the world. And I think that English is our, English doesn't have a mother. English is for everybody, English doesn't have a country, specifically country. English is for everybody.
I
Yes.
like the way you said that. That's interesting. English is for everybody. Yes. Um, and I know, I don't know about in Brazil. You have to tell us a little bit about Brazil. I know in some of the African countries, they have so many different languages that they can't really communicate with each other from one community to the other because their languages are different. Do you have that in Brazil?
No, actually, we don't have in Brazil, but we do have other languages. Like, indigenous people, they have their own languages. Each community, and in each community, you will find a different language. So, but in Brazil, in the big cities, countryside, you are going to find only Portuguese. It might have small communities in the south of Brazil where there are people from Germany, people from Italy, Japan. You might find small communities, especially in a city called Manaus or called São Paulo. It's the biggest city in South America. But specifically in Brazil, in general, we speak Portuguese, and Portuguese is our main language. But we might have misunderstandings between different communities. What I have here in Manaus, in my city, about slangs, you might find all the kinds of slangs in another city. So you need to use the proper language when you go to another city. You can't be very informal as you are in this city, and then you go to that city, and then if you are going to use different slangs, they will misunderstand you. But in general, we can have a good communication. It's just like small things.
And tell me a little bit about Portuguese, and is your mother tongue, and is English taught in the schools?
Yes, English and Spanish, but English is more taught in Brazil. You are going to find many schools who are teaching English, especially in the public organizations. You are going to find English teaching, but yes, and then we also have Spanish. But many people, I think in my vision, many people prefer to study English in Brazil.
And tell us, please, a little bit about what's happening in Brazil and the school systems and the communities with the outbreak of COVID. Has it affected you as greatly there as it is everywhere else in the world?
Yes, actually, COVID-19 is affecting many places. Yes, and in my country, especially where I live, if you study in a private school, you can. They are having those people who study in private school. They are having classes online. Where those people who study in public school, they don't really have classes online. The government is not providing that resource online. But in general, in Brazil, if you want to have a good education in high school, you need to go to a private school. If you want to have a good education in a university, you need to go to a public university, because in the public universities in Brazil have more accreditation than private.
Why is that?
Because I'm not sure about, but if you come to Brazil, when you get a sport at university, for example, first you need to do an entrance exam to go to a public university. And when you get into the university, you are like fabulous, very smart, and then you are more recognized by the government, by companies, when you come from a public university. But when you study at private, it's very easy. Everybody can go to a private university if they have money. But in the public sector, you have to study, you have to do an entrance exam, you have to do a lot of work, to get there, and that might be very challenging. And in general, public universities are more recognized by the government.
You said that the public does more hands-on apprenticeship types of activities than the private schools do?
Yes, I'll give you an example. If you study English at a public one, you have much more opportunity to improve and to speak very well. But if you go to a private university, you have less chance to, to know more about the language, to know more about the culture. But in the public one, you have much more opportunities to have, extracurricular activities, besides your curricular at university. And in general, public universities are more recognized in Brazil. Many people say in Brazil, if you study at a private university, you are not intelligent enough. And if you study in a public, you are the smartest guy, in the country.
To me, it only means that they're more capable of test taking than some of the others are. So what is it that they do to show that they actually have the knowledge and are able to use the knowledge on something other than the tests that the universities give?
Yes, what you said is very important, because even though they are certified, they have a certificate, but some of them don't have a job because they are not capable enough to do that job. But in Brazil, in my vision, someone might have another opinion. And I think that many companies are hiring you if you have experience. And I think that it's a little bit bad for those who are young, teenagers, you know, because they don't really have experience. And most of the companies are hiring just if you have experience. You can't prove what you do if nobody accepts you, if no company accepts you, or if you want to prove something where I live, you need to have experience in that field. If you don't have, you need to fight, and fight to get a job.
Why is that then not part of the educational environment of the learners, so that as they're learning, they are gaining experience, putting together a portfolio of that experience, and using that as an application rather than.
And I think it's very important to recognize what we did at university, college, because we were gaining knowledge and experience at the same time. Because if you go to university, you are going to practice you're going to have practical activities. You are going to practice what you are studying. But I also think that it should have a sector in the company where they can hire people without experience. Work experience, but I'm sure they do have experience in their field, or I think it should have a sector in the company. But in Brazil, we do have some companies. They are most of them are factories, and they hire people with qualities. They don't hire people if they have a degree at university, especially those multinational companies, from Japan, like Samsung, Panasonic, Philips. They hire you even though you don't have a degree. That's very important, and then you can have a bit of experience there. But in general, if you want to be lawyer, doctor, most people study like 15, 20 years to be doctor, lawyer. You don't really work after you finish the degree.
Wow, that's a long time to work to be getting a certificate, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, and I know pre-COVID, many graduates that I spoke with, graduating from college, didn't feel they had any of the skills necessary to be able to find jobs or to work out in the public sector, because the education hadn't given them the skills to do that. And that was pre-COVID. So how are we going to be able to ensure that education is empowering learners and the communities to move forward in a new environment and get the skills and the education they need to be sustainable and successful?
That's an amazing question. Yes, you need to work on that, especially in the education sector, because sometimes people look at your certificate, if you have a paper, but we can ensure that we have knowledge enough to do that job from the point that we show our abilities, our creativity as well on what we do. And I think that that should be a global awakening about regarding education. Where people will see education as the most important to get a job, to succeed. Because education, you don't, people think that education is only at university, school. But now we are having an educational time where we are learning from each other. We are speaking about what we know, what we think. This is an educational time, and what you hear from me, you might pass to your daughter, son, friends, about where I live, about what I think. This is an educational time, and I think that if we look at education as the main important thing to succeed, I think we're going to have a better world. Yes, we're going to have a better world in this way. But in general, that's what I think.
That's interesting. Somebody had raised their hand to ask a question. I'm not sure who it was. So maybe if you want to unmute your mic, you could ask Alex a question.
Yes,
Andrea, hi.
I raised the hand. Who is the moderation in this meet?
Okay. I'm Tracy Hansen. I'm one of the hosts, and I'm the CEO and founder of Next Generation Global Education, which is a not-for-profit educational registered in Florida. And we work globally, and I'm co-hosted with Nigel, who is in Austria. And
Okay.
Nigel will show himself. And that's who is co-hosting here. And we try to connect with educators and innovators who are trying to make changes globally around the world, to connect them together to change the picture of education and what learning is about.
Okay.
We were doing this before COVID, and now it's really becoming even more important because we no longer have to depend on what is given to us or handed to us in textbooks and within the classroom, because we now have, the world has been opened up to us to be able to learn from each other. And so this is one of the ways that NGGE tries to promote learning and education in a different way and outside the box.
Okay, yeah, I understand now. Yeah. I was a little bit confused.
Well, I welcome you. I'm glad you joined us. And and Alex, if you had advice to give young people in this COVID environment, what kind of advice would you give them, and what would you tell them to start to do to be able to find learning for themselves as you did?
That's another amazing question that I really like to answer. And in this time, we are having opportunities to get to know each other. We are having opportunities to make connections between people, and if you are 15, 16, 17, 18, I give you an advice like, wake up, it's time to study more and more. It's time to connect with people. And in this way, we are going to find ways to improve ourselves. We are going to find ways to be more educated, and also you don't have excuse to study, to learn, because everything is in your hand. You just need to eat it. You know, everything is in your hands. You know, you have everything. You have internet. And what I did, I can give you as an advice. You know, I start I start interviewing people. I start making connections with people. That's why I'm here now with Nigel and Tracy. I'm being interviewed by Tracy because I made a connection with her. If I didn't make that connection, I would not be here. And that's it.
Nigel, how about coming on in the
Yeah, hi.
conversation? Hi,
Hi,
Nigel
everybody.
is hosting, and he is in Austria. Nigel,
Wearing matching grey today.
I don't know how we do that. We always end up, you know, mental telepathy, we always end up sort of dressing in the same color. One of the questions before I'm going to let Nigel take over with the interviewing that I want to ask you is, you started mentioning careers. And I found in my travels that people can only think of sustainability and having a proper career as being a doctor or in computer sciences. They're very limited in being able to see that having a job and a career also has to be something which gives you pleasure and happiness as well. And it doesn't have to be something like a doctor, but there are other fields of study. But communities and families are too focused on only certain ones because that's what's going to make them the money. Does money necessarily bring happiness into people's lives? And are there other ways to bring joy and happiness into your life and to be successful without being, you know, rich?
Nigel or for me?
You, Alex, that's you.
Okay, so you know, I think you can be successful in whatever field you are or you want to be. You know, because everybody now is looking for what they really like. Before, they were being forced by their parents or by their system. You have to be a doctor to succeed. You have to be a lawyer. You have to go to university, you know, to succeed. But in my personal view, I think if you want to succeed, you need to look for what you like. And if you have pleasure working in that area, in that way, you are going to succeed. No matter if you are going to earn $10,000 per month, 2,000, the most important is to be happy, you know, is to have pleasure in that field that you are working. And that's why I think in my personal view, I want to work with people, you know, close to people. I want to make connections with them. And I found that if I open, my friend gave me a really brilliant advice, is that I could open a hotel, English academy, a restaurant in the same place, you know. And in that environment, we are going to have, we are going to feed ourselves, we are going to eat, you know, and then we are going to rest. And in that environment, we are going to learn as well. We are going to have an educational environment in the same place. And I've never heard about a place where you can have many different things at the same place. Educational environment and cultural environment. And that's what I want to do. I want to work with people because that will give me pleasure. And I also think that if I work alone, I won't, I will feel very, very sad, because when you work for people, it's like give and take, and that's my point.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's very good. Yeah, of course, we are trying to shift back to the learner instead of the system and begin to ask the learners, what is it that is a passion of yours and what do you want to learn, and then to help people do that. But does that only begin once you get into college? Is that when that change should happen of education and learning, is at the college level?
Um, no, not exactly. I think that, as I told you before, if you go to college, it's okay. No, you're going to have opportunities. Of course, you're going to have the knowledge to work in your field. Yes, it doesn't mean that universities are useless. That's not the point, in my opinion. But we want to open our mind to welcome other ways to succeed. That's what I think we want to do at this time. For example, nowadays we are welcoming new ways of working, new ways to do the job. And I think it's not about put degrees down. It's all about welcome other careers. It's all about open our minds, to new ways of working. Yes.
And can't it start in the elementary class with the youngsters, to be able to start having them search for their passions and what it is that they really enjoy, and being able to learn more about the community and the resources and so forth within their living spaces as well? Or do we have to wait?
I did. Uh, Frozen.
Nigel is writing me all sorts of questions here, and I'm going to ask him to come and start to ask these, because I have to put my glasses on to read the questions, and then it's more difficult for me to do this. So Nigel, if you happen to be on, can you unmute and come in and ask some of these questions that you're asking? No, you might. Okay, so one of them is.
Okay. Hello. Hi.
Oh, here you are.
Yeah,
Okay.
Alex, I wanted to ask you, it's very interesting what you said so far, and I've been following pretty closely, which is very interesting. I wanted to ask, obviously, you're a young man with a lot of ambition. I want to ask what you see as your greatest challenge and what you see as your greatest opportunity.
Okay. Okay. So the greatest challenge is, to act without enough resources. And the greatest,
I'm sorry, Alex, without what kind of resources?
that's a difficult one. I think if you need to open a business, if you need to open a new idea, you need to have support from other people. I mean, in general, we need to have support in financially, you know, and then we need to have support from other people to work with our partnership, you know, and but the greatest opportunity comes from the moment that you start to think about what you want to do. That's the greatest opportunity when you have the idea. You know, if you have that idea, that's your opportunity to grow. And after that, you just need to work on finding resources, working on, you know, connecting with people to start that business or to start that initiative. You know, you need. I'm sure that everybody needs to have partners, needs to have resources. You cannot start something without resources and alone. You know, but if you do have resources, you just need to train other people. You just need to help them to understand what you want to open, what you want to do with them.
So connecting, finding and defining what it is you want to accomplish, and then the resources that will help you accomplish that goal. Pretty much what you're talking about. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Because, for example, you cannot look for the resources first if you don't have the idea, you know. But when you have the idea, when you have the opportunity, and then you can start working on finding resources, support from people, and things like that. So, in my personal view, you have to train yourself. You have to gain knowledge about that field. And for example, in my case, if I'm going to work with people, I need to learn how to deal with different people, you know, different behaviors, different culture. In this case, I think you can even have resources. You can even gain resources from yourself, within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
From the moment that you start understanding what you are going to do, how you are going to do, who are you going to do with, you know, things like that.
Well, as you know, the Matrix says learning can't happen if we don't ask questions. And it's the questions that begin to stimulate the motivation to find those answers, to create something and to give it back to others. And you do that through the resources that help you find those answers. And I think that you are a very nice example of one who's done that and is doing it very successfully. I want to ask the other people who are in the meeting if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask Alex. If you just want to raise your hand or let me know that you'd like to ask something, and I'll unmute you. No? Well, Alex, I'm going to end then outside of the box with you giving sort of a key piece of wisdom to those that are here listening and those that will listen to you in the future about what you want to see happen for the world in the future and your part.
Okay. Okay, that's a difficult one. So I want to see everybody happy. The first one, I want to see them feeling you know, grateful for what they have and what they are. And also, I want to see people starting to work on their passions, dreams, you know, especially on dreams. And also, I want to see the world more, you know, more open to new ideas, especially when it comes to education, business, things like that. And I also want to say that if we look for ideas that will give us more, I think it will make us happier. Or I think it's going to be amazing to find those ideas. But that's all, you know. I think that's the idea. That's what I I was saying. Yes.
And I did type as you were talking into the box so people could see what it was your hopes were for the world. And with that, if nobody else has any other questions, I want to thank Alex for joining us and being our guest today in Outside the Box. We're here Tuesdays and Thursdays with a different person each day. And Thursday, we have Jim Baker coming in from the UK, who is an innovative, outside-the-box science teacher and works globally with people all around the world. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you Thursday.
Bye.